Dr. Mary Malone, Superintendent of the Ayer-Shirley Regional School District. Here with me today is Spencer Christie, who is the principal of the Ayer-Shirley Regional High School, and Robert Briggs, who is the Director of Facilities for the Ayer-Shirley Regional School District. Steve Kendall, who is our Athletic Director, will be joining us in a few minutes. Today we're going to show you the fields at the high school. As you know, these fields here are approximately 50 years old and need to be renovated. We have been working on getting this field project through, I think, about 3 years now. So we're going to show you some of the deficits and where the field stands today. And of course, anyone who would like a personal tour, who would like to come along with us on this journey to see just exactly what we have, you could please contact me or Mr. Christie at the high school, and we will be happy to arrange a personal tour for you. So we're going to start today with the baseball and softball fields. So at this time we're here in the baseball field, but I'd like to give you a little context to the project. The project has been revised. We have reduced the scope and the cost of the project. The scope of the project includes renovating the baseball field, which Mr. Briggs will give you some detail on, but it does not include renovating the softball field, which is a ways down. We're trying to get the project as close to $5 million as we could. And so just to note, the softball field is certainly in a dire condition. There are no dugouts or anything for the girls at all. But the baseball field has a dual purpose. It serves baseball and then it serves soccer, which is problematic because the soccer field is not a regulation field. And I'm going to let Mr. Briggs talk about why it is problematic and why the cost to build a retaining wall is so important. Because I want to emphasize one thing about this project. This is a beautiful complex. We built a new high school, and now we just need to renovate these fields because it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for students to come to a high school and be able to play softball and play baseball and play soccer and play football and run track, maybe lacrosse, any other sports that they want, right on the complex of the high school. It just creates such a wonderful, wonderful culture and community for our students. So to Bob, could you please tell us about the deficits in this baseball field, please?
Certainly. Starting right here in the infield, a couple of things I'd like to point out. Dr. Malone already did say something about the lack of dugouts. So the players have no protection from the sun. They don't have good protection from any foul balls hit towards them while they're waiting in the dugout, things of that nature. We've realized that some of our fencing is a little bit short and doesn't protect others outside the field very well from an array of balls that could go over the fence. Getting out into beyond the infield and on the soccer field, Dr. Malone talked about the width of the soccer field. Currently we have to play on part of the infield dirt. There's a challenge there for people that are running down the field chasing a ball or dribbling a ball where they run from one surface change to another, and it causes a trip hazard. There's no good place out here for spectators to watch the game. So the idea is to put a retaining wall down near the tree line and expand the field in that direction. I think we were talking about 20, 50 feet or something of that nature, just to get the field off of the infield of the baseball field with enough room for runoff when people are running off of beyond the sideline. And other challenges that we've had out here we've been able to take care of, but we do have some rocks that pop up from time to time. We have a little bit of ledge over there between the baseball field and the softball field that we'd like to take care of because that's also a health hazard, safety hazard.
So here we are now. We're on the main part of the field complex here at the high school with the track and the football field. And we're just going to show you some of the components and how we need to renovate, the field. So starting with the scoreboard, it does function, if I would say, but the bulbs go out and we have a very, very difficult time to get the bulbs because of the age of the scoreboard. Then moving on behind me, you can see the ticket stand and then the concession stand. So part of the project calls for your utility structure that does have a concession area, bathrooms, and storage, but it's not going to be finished with this part of the project because of trying to keep the costs down. The current concession stand that they've been using for years and years and years has no running water. And that is a very, very much of a health concern when you're serving food and drinks and certain things. You can't even, cleanse your hands and serve right. People have to run into the building, which is quite a distance away. And I'm going to turn over to Mr. Christie and Mr. Briggs to talk about the field and some of the other deficits.
I can start with adding a little bit more information in regards to the scoreboard. Obviously, it's an older style, and the cable that controls the board and powers the board runs across the field to the press box. And we've had to replace 2 computers in this scoreboard over the past 2.5 years, 3 years, because we believe that maybe it was due to a lightning strike that followed the cable under the ground. The newer scoreboards are all done wirelessly now, so that would obviously not be a problem. The computers are very expensive. Like Dr. Malone said, I can expand a little bit on the bulbs. I think we have to do pretty heavy maintenance to the old scoreboard on a yearly basis. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the light towers that we have around the field. Very old style lights, expensive bulbs. They're about 45 feet up in the air. We've got 8 towers. And a newer lighting system, a more efficient lighting system would benefit the school district in several ways, would get more life out of the bulb, and meaning that we wouldn't have to have the bucket truck come in so often, which is expensive, and they're a much more efficient light to operate.
If we look at the track itself, the track is now starting to show real signs of age. If you look at it, there are chunks of it that are now starting to be missed. This no longer enables us to hold home track meets. And as Dr. Malone had mentioned earlier, a giant component to us of being able to run successful sports teams and organizations here at the school has to been able to enable us to have fans, to enable us to have students that stay here right after school, come out here, participate, and are able to be cheered on in their finest hours. Unfortunately, with the condition of the track now, we're not able to do that.
Yes, and I might add, you'll see later on some of the basically a sinkhole and such. So all of this track can be used for at this time is for practice, and they have like 3 lanes they could practice on. The other piece we'd like to point out as we move along this field is you will see the bleachers. We have the visitor bleachers and we have the home bleachers. They are cordoned off. They do not meet the American Disabilities Act compliance for all of our students and families that have disabilities, and therefore we had to close them down, and they cannot be used until we renovate this field or make them handicap accessible. The press box, which is another important feature because you call games from a press box, that again has been shut down and will no longer be used because it does not meet the ADA standards and we are out of compliance. So at this point on the Ayer-Shirley Regional High School field complex, we have a track where we can practice in 3 lanes. We can't use the bleachers, we can't use the press box. We have a concession stand that doesn't have any running water, which is, we've all learned the importance of hand washing and things during this whole pandemic we're in, which is very concerning. And furthermore, I'm going to have Mr. Briggs talk a little bit about the football field and the maintenance and some of the issues we've had with the football field. Mr. Briggs.
The football field is a natural turf field, and it does obviously present challenges in itself in that regard. We do have lawn irrigation out here, an old system, but we can get water out here when we're not banned from using it. But we have challenges where it's difficult to maintain this field. It gets used for track and field. Right now, currently, it gets used for football, practices too, and it gets used for soccer at times as well. It's the only athletic field out here that we have lights, so if we have an evening, nighttime event. But getting that kind of heavy use allows the facilities department no time to get out here and get the necessary maintenance done when a field gets as beat up as this one gets on a yearly basis. We struggle with opportunities to put down fertilizer to improve the turf. As I said, we struggle with opportunities to water it at times. and it just can't sustain itself in that. We can't have that many activities happening without any opportunities to bring the field back to life.
And students beg us to have night games. You know, it's a huge family activity. Families can't always come to after-school events because they're still working. And once in a while we can have a night. We've had a couple of night soccer games here, and the students beg to have these games. But because the field is being used for football, it cannot sustain that kind of playing time on it, or else we wouldn't be able to play football. So it's been a struggle and a very big disappointment to our students, because this field complex is antiquated, it's outdated, it served its purpose. I mean, it served these communities well. It's been here for years and years and years, as I stated earlier. And once we renovate and put in a new athletic field, that'll be here for years and years and years. You know, 30 years, 40 years. It wouldn't be anything that the towns would have to look at for a new project here in the schools. We have to remember that great schools create vibrant communities. It is so important, and athletics is a very important part of a student's life. And whether they see it as, you know, a future, whether they see it as connecting to school and to other students, whether they see it as just sheer enjoyment. I love to play soccer or track. We have many students who play more than one sport, and we're very proud of that. And you know, we've had some really great athletes and some championships in recent years, in spite of these deficits. Imagine what we could be, or what it would be, for our families and students to have a athletic complex that matches the beautiful state-of-the-art high school that the taxpayers of Ayer-Shirley came together and approved. We also have with us is our athletic director, Mr. Steve Kendall, and he's going to just give us a recap and overview of what we've talked about, but from his expertise in around this field complex, he's going to talk some more in recap. Mr. Kendall.
Hi. So we've done a nice job of giving a general overview of what's been going on with the track program. Obviously, we've talked about the problems in this area. There's some problems further down in lane 1 and 6 where the track is actually broken off from the covering underneath. The jumping pits are on the sidelines, which makes for an unsafe situation for football and for soccer, as there's not really enough runoff area for them to come off the field and run safely without hitting a different surface. And those programs are very important to the school district. Football is well attended. It's a place where the band gets to demonstrate their skills and what they've learned. It's an opportunity for our football players. It's an opportunity for our cheerleaders. Our community comes together in that atmosphere. We'd love to be able to host some more soccer games on this field, play some night games, but it's very difficult with the drainage as it is, with the manhole covers on the sidelines, and the jumping pits being right off the runoff for soccer. In addition to the stands not being handicapped accessible, makes it very difficult to host football and soccer games at this point. The track, like Mr. Christie pointed out, is impossible to use for a meet at this point due to the condition of the tracks, specifically lanes 1 and 6. The straightaways are okay, but the corner areas are unusable for longer events, which makes it impossible to host a home meet. It makes it a challenge for the track team, which has over 100 kids to go away for 6 track meets a year. That's 3 buses to every track meet during the course of a season. The baseball field, just to recap that, it's used pretty much year round when there's not snow on the ground. It's used from the 3rd week of August, actually the 2nd week of August with football, and then the 3rd week of August with soccer, all the way through November, beginning of November, sometimes mid-November. Then it's obviously nothing we can work on it during the winter months, and then in April, as soon as the snow melts, March or April, baseball's on there right up until June, and then we maybe get a couple weeks before the real summer heat hits. So it's very difficult to keep care of that field when it's being used constantly throughout the seasons. And even in the summer, it gets used by our town soccer leagues. We'll be out there, our high school teams will be out there, our town high school teams will be out there, high school age teams. So it never gets a chance to get worked on. It never gets an opportunity to regenerate. And a new field, a turf field over here, would allow us to keep soccer off that field for a season and allow our custodial crew, our facilities crew, to work on field and maintain the grass there.
Mr. Kendall was just mentioning about, we can't hold any meets here, and through the years we've held meets, and it's been so wonderful and exciting and engaging. But the other piece about it is student athletes from other school districts do not want to come and play in our fields, whether it's our baseball field or our soccer field or our track field or our football field. Our student athletes here in Ayer-Shirley really get ribbed, if you will, by other student athletes about the condition of these fields. And the other issue is the safety, which is the most important for our students. We as a school system, our first priority, whether it's athletes, in the buildings, education, is safety. And this complex is not safe for students. Mr. Kendall is going to add some more about the safety of these fields.
So one of the big things that came up the last baseball season we had were some divots in the outfield, which are created obviously during soccer season, without the opportunity to work on those divots and really have some time to get that grass to grow back in and fill in with soil and topsoil. They can never really truly get fixed. So every time it rains, they get recreated. Kids were tripping out there. The ball was taking funny bounces, hitting people in places where the head and the stomach, just taking bounces they shouldn't be taking. Now, obviously, anytime you're playing on a grass surface, that's a possibility, but they were taking bizarre bounces out there. Occasionally, there's rocks that come up that we see out there, and the facilities crew will get those out when we find them. But opposing coaches, opposing players all brought up concerns they had about the baseball field. Same thing happened this fall on our game field here for football and soccer. We were using more for soccer this year because of necessity out of the COVID, with the COVID rules, being able to play games side by side was a necessity. And a lot of the opposing teams complained about the throw-in or the kick-ins because you couldn't kick the ball off the ground, and they'd kick it and hit like a divot and bounce up. They were complaining about the playing surface being uneven. So there's a lot of, and our kids have always made that complaint since I've been here. But we're starting to hear it more and more from the opposing athletes. And although the track coaches from other schools love to come here because our track coaches do a fantastic job of running the district meets and our league meets, we had two athletes get injured in the long jump pit last track meet we held 2 seasons ago. So obviously we didn't have one last spring. And others just did not want to compete in certain events because they were afraid that they'd get injured and they wouldn't be able to do a long jump or a triple jump because they didn't want to get hurt for their running events. So safety concerns are there. And again, we've been fortunate that there have not been a ton of major injuries, but there's been a lot of minor injuries that could be avoided by simply improving the field and changing the field and making it a much safer environment for our student athletes and for our PE classes, both from our school, the high school that uses them, but also Page Hilltop. Page Hilltop is over here consistently using the field and the track. We want to make it safe for them as well.
So in closing, we want to thank you for viewing this video. As stated at the beginning, we are happy to give actual tours of the field. You can just contact Mr. Christie or Mr. Kendall, and they'll be happy to schedule those tours with you. Mr. Kendall mentioned the coaching staff. We have one of the most dedicated and best coaching staffs around. And that staff is so dedicated, and they want this complex to stay as it is. They want softball, they want baseball, they want soccer, they want track, they want football, they want lacrosse, and any other sports. Maybe field hockey might be a popular sport. We want to be prepared for any of all sports because an athletic program is very important, and we want to attract students. Last piece I'll say is the physical education classes that come out here. They can play baseball, they can play softball, they can play soccer. They can use these fields every single day, barring snow on the ground. Mr. Christie, final comment?
This complex is not only a hub of the Ayer-Shirley community for our students and our student athletes. We also see a fair amount of townspeople come through. They run on our track. They want to play soccer on the fields with their kids. These are future Panthers. We want to keep them here, we want to keep them happy, and we want to keep the wonderful traditions of success at Ayer-Shirley going strong for the next 40, 50 years. Thank you.
Mr. Kendall, final comment?
And just to add on to that, the Pop Warner program has used our facilities for years. We'd love to have them back up here using our facility and give them a world-class facility for them to use. The community is out here all the time, and it's great to see people out here using our facilities. We want to make it a safe place for everybody. Our PE classes, between the high school and the elementary school, pretty much any day in the fall or the spring, you will see multiple classes out here every hour of the school day, and it's important for them to have a safe place and just to continue to build on the great traditions that athletics have had in these two towns.
So to Shirley, you've been supportive of education. We're asking you to support us, to support your neighbors, to support your children, to support your grandchildren, and help us get this field into the condition and shape that it should be into the 21st century. We thank you for your time watching this, and again, we're available to anybody if you have any questions or you'd like a tour. Thank you.